Welcome all. Good to have you back again. I've really been enjoying these live chats. I really have. They're honestly one of the highlights of my days because I get to interact with you legends. Let me straighten myself up. But honestly, there's some really good questions that come through here and really good points that are made. So guys, keep those questions coming through. Keep asking, keep talking. Let me know what you need because honestly, this is what I love doing, all right? I love talking about lifting. This is my whole life. Hey, Brenton, how are you? I love working through all this stuff with you. I love helping you guys solve your problems, making you bigger. This is my thing, all right? So yeah, massive thank you to everybody who's getting involved in this. It's really cool. I love doing these live sessions with you. And I'm going to keep doing these live sessions with you guys, as long as they're going to be helpful for you. Hey, Anthony, how are you, brother? So yeah, I really hope that you get a lot out of these live sessions. And if you want more out of them, tell me so I can help you guys do it. Hey Murray, how are you, brother? So guys, tonight we're going to be on a really cool topic, which is drugs, because drugs are like this really bad thing in society, whereas literally every second person, I don't know about wherever you guys are from, but here in Sydney, like literally every second person is out on drugs on the weekend, like all the time. Now me, being my nerdy bodybuilding self who doesn't really party that often, I'm not as exposed to it as what most people are, but a shitload of people do this, and all the mainstream media and all these fitness professionals are like, no, drugs are bad, alcohol's bad, don't do it. And then you'll go see them out one night at a club, and they'll have a bloody line of rack up their nose, and they'll be covered in powder, or they'll be chewing their jaw for some mysterious reason. And so I find that the industry is very hypocritical about this, and nobody actually talks about it openly, like whatsoever. And so a lot of people think that these drugs are just gonna, they're gonna kill you, and they're gonna, death to anyone who takes drugs, whereas the science and the literature says completely differently. Now, me being the nerd that I am and enjoying the side of neurotransmitters and brain chemistry and all that jazz, all those big fancy words that make me seem smart when I'm really not, I looked into these and I tried to think, what are actually the effects? Like, what actually are the effects of these things on gains? So tonight, what we're going to cover, all right? We've got them written here. We're going to be covering, first of all, I'll go cigarettes. We'll look after cigarettes because Uma has just commented about cigarettes. First of all, we'll look at them. Then we'll look at cocaine. We'll look at the effect of pot, MDMA, and alcohol. And we're going to look at how these actually affect the body, so what receptors these work on and what effects these things have, and whether they actually have any bad effects on your gains at all. Because no doubt, if you go down, you ask any Instagram model, all right, what their thoughts are on any of these drugs, they're going to say, oh no, I don't do that. No way, that is bad for your gains. That is not going to help you at all. But really, is it actually that bad? So we're going to cover all this stuff, because I know without a doubt that some guys out there, you are going to be using stuff like this, and you're going to be thinking, well, fuck, is this actually bad for me or not? Some people are going to say, I feel really good on them and it doesn't affect me at all. Or does it actually have a really bad effect? And on top of this too, if any of you are open enough to talk about your experiences with these things, you're going to be more knowledgeable than me. As I said, I don't really go out too much. I mean, last weekend I had a couple of champers and I was blind drunk off about 3 of them. So I'm not really the biggest expert in this area. But if someone here does have more of an idea than me about this, please comment. Add to it. I want you guys to be involved in this and you guys to share your experiences, because collectively, if everybody shares our experiences and our thoughts on this, we're going to be much, much smarter as a unit. All right, and that's what I want to see us as. All right. I'm just going to share this now to the Shred community. As always, guys, if you're not a part of the Shred community, get amongst it. Yeah, we've got a bunch of legends in there. My whole team's in there. We've got nutritionists, GPs, top level coaches, the whole lot. All right. Joel, I'm glad you love the topic, big fella. If you have any questions about it, ask away, because, dude, this never gets answered. Never. In my whole time in the fitness industry, I've never seen this question or this topic be answered and talked about, all right? It shouldn't be taboo. It should not be taboo or bad or looked down upon to talk about something which happens in literally every single life. Christ, Sydney is the drug capital of the world. honestly, do you think people who lift aren't taking drugs? Of course they are, right? Not even the steroid type drugs. So I'm just going to share up the link to the Shred community now. Bang, there we go, shared up. All right, look, kids, we've got 60 people online already. This is crazy. Thank you very much for coming, guys. Let's get into it. Let's crack on, all right? So the first one we're going to talk about, the first drug, thanks to Umar, is talking about cigarettes. Now, Kazi asked the same question earlier. Do cigarettes and do smoking affect bodybuilding, okay? Now, let's look at how cigarettes affect us. Number one, they bind to the nicotine receptor in the brain, or whatever it's called. And the major thing that it does is it increases your heart rate, it gives you a release of dopamine, makes you feel good, it reduces your hunger, okay? So we look at those three things. There may be a slight increase in your metabolic rate. I haven't looked into the studies for that because I wasn't prepared for cigarettes tonight, but there might be a slight increase in your metabolic rate. You might burn slightly more fat, okay? At the same time, you're gonna be less hungry, so you're gonna eat fewer calories, right? On top of this too, you are gonna feel good, so you may have less sweet food cravings than what you would otherwise. As you see, when a lot of people come off smoking and stop smoking, they put on a whole heap of weight because their sweet cravings are through the roof because their dopamine receptors are so fried from all the nicotine. They just keep nom 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 chowing food down. So that's what it will do good. And that's literally it, because cigarettes are shit and they're gross, all right? They're absolutely fucking disgusting little things. I can't stand them. I hate the smell of smoke. Absolutely terrible. So, you know, definitely wouldn't recommend smoking ciggies, because the thing is that there are so many downsides to smoking ciggies that it's just not even funny. I mean, when you're smoking cigarettes, you'll notice immediately a decrease in your ability to perform aerobically. So your endurance within your weight sessions will become poorer. Your endurance in sprinting sessions, like on the bike, if you're doing HIIT or if you're doing cardio, it'll all go down. So your ability to adapt and improve and become fitter and to recover faster is going to go down. On top of these two, some people will develop like an inflammatory sort of response to it as the cigarettes actually damage you, because as we know, cigarettes are not good for our health whatsoever. They generate a substantial amount of inflammation, which is why they cause cancer, particularly lung cancer, okay? So I would not advise smoking cigarettes at all. If you like really need nicotine, if you just need it and you think that nicotine is going to make a world of difference for you, and you're saying, you know, I'm going to take either nicotine or some other, you know, drug in order to suppress my appetite, go for like the nicotine like gum or the patches or something like that, because it still gets into you without the smoke and all the bad shit. Nicotine's still not great for you, but nicotine itself, actually, you know what? Nicotine itself really isn't that bad for you at all. And I'm pretty sure a few years ago I did see a study where nicotine itself actually enhanced fat loss. So you can chew the nicotine gum and get decent effects from it. I just would not recommend smoking at all. There's no way I recommend smoking. It doesn't do anything good for you whatsoever. And I'm sure we're going to find more and more and more and more evidence, you know, that it's just not good and it's not going to help our gains whatsoever. Okay. One thing that is good about good about sucking on something and actually having it in your mouth, it is very soothing. That action of actually having something in your mouth is soothing. So if you are smoking and you want to quit, okay, two things you should do is, number one, yes, use the nicotine gum to get yourself off the habit of smoking, but also actually focus on actually having something in your mouth and actually sucking on it. My old girl, my mum, my dear old mummy, she works in this line of work with in occupational therapy, and from her research she came across, she saw that people who smoke, it's actually very soothing to just be sucking on something just gently like that. So if you are trying to get off it, do suck it. If you're looking for something, a lot of people smoke pre-workout because it makes them focus and stuff like that. If you're looking for something better, just chew gum, all right? Chew gum, chew your nicotine gum, something like that. It'll be much, much better for you, okay? Now the next one. Cocaine. Chris, I'll get to steroids later. Cocaine. Now, what cocaine does. Contrary to popular opinion, cocaine's probably not going to kill you unless you do a shitload of it. And apparently in Australia, it's stupidly expensive. From everyone who I've talked to, it is absolutely ridiculously expensive. I don't know about elsewhere in the world, but in Australia, 100%, that's for sure. So if you're taking enough cocaine in order to overdose, well, you know, you're doing pretty well. And somehow I doubt that any of you guys are doing that well, that you can afford like a $1,000 a week habit. You know, well, hats off to you if you can. That's very, very impressive. Not hats off for choosing cocaine to spend $1,000 a week, but hats off for being able to spend $1,000 a week on that. That's fantastic. But yeah, so what cocaine does, it works on the dopamine receptor, okay? So it works and it gives you high amounts of motivation, high amounts of energy, the want to move. It gives you lots and lots of confidence by activating this receptor. Now, cocaine was one of the things that we studied extensively in uni, right? One of the big things that we studied in uni. And acute cocaine use actually increased the amount of the dopamine receptor density in the brain if just used in small amounts irregularly, okay? So it actually had a beneficial effect on memory, on motivation, and the ability to move and those sorts of things, okay? So it actually had a beneficial effect in acute use. Now, I can't remember what they defined acute use as, but in small amounts, in irregularly, it actually has a beneficial effect. Longer term use, if you use what they call chronic use, regular use throughout a longer period of time, it actually decreases and sends the other way. So it's a thing of moderation. Now, as far as if you go out and you do decide to take cocaine on the weekend, okay? I'm not going to tell you not to because fuck, how many teachers have told you to do that and you're still going out and doing it anyway, all right? I don't really care. I just want to make you big. All right, if you go out and you take cocaine on the weekend, things that you've got to be really careful for are, number one, that it's not cut with other drugs like the amphetamines. As soon as you touch amphetamines, you're fucked, all right? Amphetamines are a no-go zone. You just cannot come back from those. Those things are really harsh, okay? On top of this too, you need to make sure that the next day your gut is really, you've actually released it. Because one thing that everybody will notice is that when they go into cocaine, when they use cocaine, it sends you into fight or flight, okay? So it puts you into that fight or flight mode. When you're in fight or flight, it puts an immense amount of stress on your gut. Now, let's be honest, when most people go out and do cocaine, they will then drink at the same time. And so when you've got this gut in fight or flight, and there's no blood flow, and then you combine that with alcohol at the same time, it damages your gut lining immensely. So the next day after you've done this, you need to make sure that you are looking after your gut in a big way, okay? You need to help it heal. So take lots of vitamin C to calm the inflammation within the area, the localized inflammation, or get rid of any of the other stuff. I'd highly recommend taking digestive enzymes for the next few days because your small intestine is probably not going to be too happy with you. Take more betaine HCl. And on top of that, really watch the foods you're eating while you're out. Now, everyone wants to go out when they've had you know, they've been on the cocaine, they've taken alcohol at the same time, they then go out and have a kebab or some god-awful meal. You want to minimize that. You are much better to fast than you are to eat, okay? I'd 100% recommend that when you're drinking or if you're taking drugs, try and fast rather than trying to eat and put all this crap into your body, which you're then going to struggle to get out. As far as the effect on your gains, cocaine's not going to have any effect on your gains, okay? It's really not going to affect your fat loss or your muscle gain if you look after your gut. Your gut's the only thing that suffers. As far as your neurotransmitters and your motivation the next few days, there shouldn't actually be too much of a negative feedback loop, so it shouldn't actually decrease your motivation or your neurotransmitters or your brain function or anything like that. The thing that will decrease that is the lack of sleep. So if you are taking cocaine, it is a stimulant. It is going to keep you awake for a while. The half-life of cocaine is something like 45 minutes, okay? However, it can have a stimulatory effect for well after that as far as keeping you awake. So what I would suggest is that you just try to make yourself sleep and get to sleep and relax and take stuff like melatonin to regulate your sleep-wake cycle, right? So yeah, that's it. With cocaine, it's not going to make you small. It's not going to ruin your gains. It's not going to make you get fat. All that stuff. It's actually not going to have any real negative effects on you whatsoever. Now, I'm sure that there's a law against me saying that cocaine is good, so I'm not going to say cocaine is good. But as far as looking purely from an outside-in view, looking at its effect on gains and fat loss, it's actually not going to have any real effect at all. Okay? Now, the next one, pot, marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it. Now, that stuff has actually been heralded by a whole heap of people for both sides. So some people will say that when they take pot, they actually function at a very high level. Other people will say when they take pot, they are completely useless and completely, nutted out of their mind. Now, when I was at California 6 months ago, somebody gave me, cheeky bastard, gave me a gummy bear, right? Which had a bit of pot in it, right? Now, I've never touched the shit in my life. And I had that thing, and I tell you what, I was the most useless piece of shit for like the next 6 hours or 8 hours after it hit me really, really hard. And so if you're like that, if you're like me, if you just take a drop of this stuff in a stupid gummy bear, right, and it whacks you that hard, then, you know, definitely don't bother doing it, because it's not going to help you out whatsoever. If, on the other hand, you're a high-functioning person, well, you know, you can use it. I've actually heard of a whole heap of people actually smoking pot pre-workout, before they work out, and they get an amazing mind-muscle connection. Now, this could be just because they're so stoned out of their mind that they think everything's fantastic. I don't know. But at the same time, I actually have heard a few people talk about that and say that it's actually really, really good. Now, at the same time, if you are somebody who just gets really, really slow and gets affected by it that way, it's not going to be so good for you. So you really need to look at it for yourself. As for the after effects on gains, well, when people take pot, and there's certain strains which do this, I don't know, beyond me, I'm not an expert in it, but certain strains will make you very, very hungry. And so what it will do is it will make so you just want to binge eat, and you eat a whole heap of shit. Now, for people who are excessively stressed, this can actually be a good thing, because when people get excessively stressed, they actually get really, really tight in their stomach. And I've actually heard of coaches over in the US advising some of their clients to actually take pot, right, and actually smoke it, and then have a cheat meal, which allows them to relax and chill out, okay? At the same time, however, pot actually causes an immense amount of stress on the system. So if you're smoking up, you're actually going to increase your cortisol levels. Pot does increase cortisol, so it's actually not that good. You might feel more relaxed, but it's actually going to increase your stress hormones. At the same time as that, you guys all know this, when you increase your cortisol, you decrease your testosterone, all right? And so for that, pot is not really good for long-term use. I got a couple of clients who use it, and they definitely notice a difference between when they're using and when they're not, okay? As far as an effect on your gains, pot is only going to affect your gains if you're binging on food, okay? So you're smoking up, you're getting really hungry, and you're binging on food, and you're cheating on your diet, okay? Or if you're losing motivation. One thing that it can do, and it is shown to do in some people, is it can make them very vegetative-like, because it actually has an effect on the dopamine receptor in the brain. And when you reduce the dopamine receptor in the brain, or you reduce dopamine output, you lower motivation, you lower the ability to train, you lower the will to train, okay? And when you do that, as you all know, if you're not training hard, you're not going to be growing at all, okay? So for that reason, yeah, pot would not be good. So you really need to work out for yourself whether it's you. Does it enhance your training? Does it enhance your training? If so, then yes, it can have a positive effect on you. Do you get overrun by the munchies? If so, yes, it can have definitely a negative effect on you. If you can manage the munchies, then no, it's not bad. If you feel more relaxed, it reduces your stress level, and you notice an improvement in your gut health after that, then yes, it's having a positive effect. If you get intensely, tense afterwards and anxious, you get high levels of anxiety, which a lot of people do, then no, it's not for you. Don't use it. Don't touch it. Okay? So pot is what? Duplicitous. It can either go one way or the other. All right? Very, very rarely does it do go straight down the middle. So yeah, I would recommend, if you're going to do it, right, and it's your call if you want to do it, but if you're going to do it, make sure that you look what effect it's actually having on you, and actually have the insight to see how it's affecting you. Right? There's a whole lot of stuff about pot at the moment with all its medicinal qualities, and I was speaking with a hippie bloke the other day who I go and drink tea with, fantastic guy, Kent, and he was saying how he's seen pot do both things. He's seen high functioning people do very well on pot, and normal people will go to absolute shit on pot. All right, and he smoked a lot of dope in his time. So I would take on his advice and really be aware of what you're doing. Okay. Maro's just said, cocaine. Why are you encouraging people in the likely case of using cocaine? Here we go. So I've had one bite already. So there's an essay. I'm probably not going to leave that. Probably not going to answer that properly. But guys, as I said right at the start of this, I'm not encouraging the use of this. What I'm saying is that here are the answers that you've actually wanted to hear, because a lot of people take these drugs and you're going to take it regardless or not, all right, whether I say it or not. So I'm just here to help you. I'm just going to give you information. I'm not going to tell you to go out and take drugs because I think that's a pretty silly thing to do. If you want to take drugs, then that's fine. You go take them. That's your call. I'm just here to help you and support you and make sure that you actually know the consequences on your gains. All right? And that's what I'm here for. So thank you for your concern, Mauro, but at the same time, I'm not going to read your essay, and I don't care if you're Colombian and you find it offensive, right? That's not really my problem. Leave the feed. Next one up is MDMA. MDMA is probably one of the most common drugs that people find now around the world, as particularly in anyone age from like 16 up to 35. So it's one of the big ones. And what MDMA does is it works on increasing the amount of serotonin in your body. And when you have an increased amount of serotonin, it actually increases serotonin and dopamine, I'm pretty sure glutamate at the same time. So all the three of the big excitatory, stimulatory neurotransmitters, it increases all of those. And what happens when you do this is it obviously gives you euphoria, extreme confidence, all that. However, when you mess with serotonin, whenever you mess with serotonin, you have a massive, massive come down, all right? It really, really screws up with you, all right? It hits you in a very, very hard way. That's why people who come off antidepressant drugs have such a hard time doing it. It absolutely sucks because their serotonin levels are in the floor, their receptors are, absolutely screwed and their body's completely out of whack. And that's the same thing that happens with MDMA. The other thing with MDMA that you have to be really careful about is that it's actually been proven that when you do take MDMA, it actually explodes or bursts serotonin producing cells, and when you do that you actually have like a long-term reduction in serotonin production in your body. Okay, so just because you take it for one night doesn't mean it's only going to affect you for the next day like a hangover would. Whereas if you take it, right, if you take the MDMA and it bursts these vessels in your brain or these cells in your brain, it's actually going to have a long-term effect. And so you need to be really, really cognizant of that. You need to be aware that this is going to have an effect. And if you are taking MDMA very, very regularly, it's probably not going to have like a really good effect on you at all. The things that you'll notice, you're going to have a lower ability to train, lower motivation. You're not going to feel great at all. Okay, so you need to be really, really careful with this. If you are going to take MDMA and you want to do that, that's your call. The things that I'd recommend that you do while you're out and you're drinking, out and you're partying and you're doing whatever, make sure that you're drinking enough electrolytes as well as water. People tend to overconsume water on MDMA, and that's the reason for a lot of deaths related to it. So make sure that you're taking electrolytes, you're getting in some salt with it. Make sure that you're looking after your gut, because when you go into MDMA, once again, you go into fight or flight, and it can mess up with your gut in a big way. On top of this too, the next thing that you should do is the next day you need to replenish your serotonin. Now, the best way to do that is with 5-HTP. That's probably the best way. But you also should be taking a bit of inositol. And I would also recommend the next day to help you function, taking some alpha-GPC or some cholinergic drugs to make you think better. On top of this too, a little bit of theacrine, a little bit of theanine never goes astray. Most importantly, the same thing with cocaine is you need to make sure that you're actually getting adequate sleep, because that's going to be the big thing that affects your gains. Taking MDMA itself isn't going to affect your gains. Taking MDMA isn't going to affect fat loss itself, all right? So it's not going to directly affect either of those. In fact, I've actually heard, I've got a mate who is quite overweight, and quite overweight, had poor self-esteem, and he ended up doing what they call the Pinger diet or the Dinger diet, and he took MDMA for a fair amount of time and ended up losing a substantial amount of weight. Now, I wouldn't say do that. I'm not saying do that at all. I'm just recounting that somebody has done it, and he has lost a substantial amount of weight, because it does increase energy expenditure, because it does increase what we call locomotion or movement, right? So it makes you move a whole heap more, and obviously when you move more, you expend more energy, okay? So in that, I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but it can actually have a positive effect on fat loss or on weight loss. Let's call it weight loss and caloric expenditure, okay? Not saying I recommend doing it. Don't crucify me like Mauro did. I'm just the messenger here. But yeah, it can actually have a positive effect on weight loss. Now, the next one is alcohol, the biggest one out of absolutely everything, okay? When you drink, drinking is the worst thing by far for your gains. In fact, out of all these drugs that we've just talked about, I think the drinking and alcohol is the worst by far, because it has the worst effects on the body. The only reason that it's still legal is because it's so socially accepted for so many years and so many generations now. And we tried prohibition in the US and that didn't quite work out too well because people love their grog. Honestly, it's the worst drug of all. I would think that alcohol would have a poorer effect than you know, cocaine, pot, and MDMA combined. Right? Now the thing with alcohol is it works in two ways and has two sorts of negative effects. Actually, first of all, it doesn't have any positive effects at all, like none. Doesn't have anything good, all right? Excuse me. So it's lower than cocaine to start with, which isn't a really good start. But what it does is it will actually deplete your GABA and your dopamine. So when you drink, and some people drink to go to sleep, it actually makes you have a poorer sleep because it reduces your GABA levels. Then you become reliant on alcohol in order to sleep and in order to relax. So it's no good for that whatsoever. As far as relaxation, it can actually make you more stressed and more anxious after drinking because it has this effect on the GABA, right? If you have low GABA levels, low levels of the neurotransmitter GABA, which calms you down, makes you relax, then you're not going to have a fun time at all because you're going to be constantly anxious, you're going to get depression, you're going to have a whole heap of these things, and alcohol induces that. Now, adding to the fold too, cover this as well, that when alcohol is degraded, it goes into acetaldehyde. And when it's broken into that, I think it's acetaldehyde, yeah, I think so, whatever. It goes into this acetaldehyde, and this acetaldehyde is really, really bad for your gut. It causes mass amounts of inflammation. That's why everyone's so crook the next day when you got a hangover. That's why you feel so sick in your guts, okay? It's because of this acetaldehyde. And when you have that, and when it's chronically inflaming you, that ruins your gut, period. It will massively, massively smash you. It'll knock you for 6. It'll ruin your gains. Add into this too, alcohol's highly calorie dense. So there's 7 calories per gram of alcohol. And most people on a big night, geez, I don't know how many grams of alcohol they consume, but they'd have an absolutely enormous amount, in excess of 1,000 calories. So think about adding on 1,000 calories to your daily intake in a fuel source which doesn't get stored. It just encourages everything else to be, which isn't stored well. It just is stored as fat. Put on top of this too, alcohol reduces muscle protein synthesis, which will slow your muscle gain and will slow energy expenditure at the same time. So it has a double-edged sword, which is not good at all and not fun. Okay, what was the other one which I was going to go on about alcohol? I can't remember. But anyway, alcohol is not good whatsoever. I would not recommend well, I wouldn't, not that I wouldn't recommend alcohol, but out of the lot, it's actually the worst so far that we've covered in terms of gains. In terms of social acceptance, not at all. But in terms of gains and what I've read in the science, not a good one whatsoever. If you are going to go out and drink, here's what I recommend you do. Number 1, take melatonin before you go to bed. Just make sure that you're sleeping really quite well. Number 2, take a little bit of 5-HTP, same thing. Number 3, take some inositol, same thing. Number 4, take some glutamine before bed to help your gut and help the inflammation, the damage that you've caused onto it there. Perhaps consider taking glucosamine. And then on top of that too, the next day, make sure you meditate and get yourself right, because alcohol can really throw your brain out in a big way, as can MDMA, cocaine and pot, all right? So make sure that you meditate, you get yourself back on track, and don't let it get you down. If you start drinking and it deters you from your training sessions, you're going to go down a downward spiral. So if you go out and drink, make sure that you go out and train the next day, walk the next day, get moving the next day, even if you don't feel like it, okay? So yeah, look guys, they're the big 5 which I've covered. If you're doing heroin or methamphetamines, I can't really help you there because I don't think there's a whole heap that you can do to prevent the damage from those or improve them. Alright? So if you're doing either of those two, you're beyond my help. I can't help you. Maybe somebody else can, but somehow I doubt that anybody else is going to talk about this stuff. So you're kind of screwed. I'd highly, highly, highly recommend that you get off those two, because there is no good that can come from them, and there's a whole heap of bad that can come from them. All right. So on that note, let's go through all the comments. Now, Uma's just asked, what's a good exercise for chest muscles, bench press? Does smoking affect bodybuilding? Yes, it does. It reduces your cardiovascular capacity. Next one. Lamb, marijuana is good for the gains. Arnold knows all. As we said, brother, Arnold could be one of those guys that's functions really, really well on pot. I know he used to smoke a lot of the stuff. Barack Obama used to be called Barack Oganja, allegedly. So I read somewhere. Could be wrong. But it's a good story anyway. Don't let the truth get in the way. So yeah, look, marijuana can have positive effects, but you've got to be cognizant, you've got to be aware of the effects of marijuana in increasing cortisol and its effect on your gut, okay? A lot of people say that it has all these mystical powers, which pot doesn't. Cannabidiol, the actual oil, that does, and that's a really healthy one. And I actually tried cannabidiol, CBD oil, in my last prep when I was trying to fix up my gut. Did absolutely nothing for me. It was the worst thing ever, okay? So I would not recommend that, in my opinion. Joel, I'm glad you love the topic, brother. Chris, how about steroids? Well, steroids are going to be good for your gains, brother. Big time. They're going to help. They kind of have to. So yeah, no, steroids are going to be good for your gains in a big way. You can't deny that at all. Would I recommend taking them? Well, like, there's no evidence to suggest that they actually do a whole heap of bad, like nothing substantial. If you're a dickhead with them, then yeah, you're going to be bad. But if you're also a dickhead with alcohol, then you're not going to get good results either. My best advice would be go see a doctor who actually knows about the stuff, look after yourself, conduct blood tests, all that sort of thing, and then you should be fine. I was actually talking to my good friend Rawdon Dubois the other day about this, and he said that there is zero evidence to suggest that steroids actually have any long-term effect. Even from a bloke, a very intelligent endocrinologist called Michael Scally, and to my knowledge, he says the same thing. Larry Allen, pingers. Yeah, mate, look, pingers go into the MDMA category, so let me know if you need anything about that. Something in Spanish from Juan. I like to think I'm pretty smart, but I'm not smart enough to speak Spanish just yet, alright? I am learning though, that's my next language. Ali Assad, John Jones should really see this video. Yeah, I heard that bloke's a fiend for it, like an absolute fiend for the bags. Guys, for any of you who don't know, John Jones is an MMA fighter. And he's recently got done his last 2 or his 3 fights for drugs. One time was steroids, one time was cocaine, I don't know about the other one. It was 2 or 3 times. And he is a fiend for that stuff. Good on him. If he likes it, he likes it. That's his choice. But yeah, he probably should have heard this video. But you look at that. That's another example, right? He's one of the top athletes in the world, and he's clearly using this stuff, and he's still performing extremely, extremely well. And he's using it close enough to fights that he can actually get tested. That's the most amazing thing, because cocaine's only in your system through a urine test for not long. I think it was like 2 days, a day or 2 days, and that's it. And then all its metabolites are excreted. So yeah, he's clearly functioning quite well on the stuff. Ashley, pretty smart dude, eh? Thanks, brah. Try. Chris Nelson, this is so relevant right now. I hope so, man, because a lot of people do this shit and nobody knows about it. So if you've got any further questions on it, man, let me know, alright? No judgment here. We're a judgment-free zone. If you don't want to comment on my Facebook post, right, on this Facebook page, which has got, however many thousand people on it, like 36,000, 37, 38, whatever it is now. You're all awesome, by the way. Just go join the Shred community, man. Much closer, much smaller environment. Josh Thompson, the only smoke you should be having is smoky barbecue sauce on your chicken. That's correct, mate. I'd agree with that. Only smoky barbecue sauce on your chicken. Now, here's Mauro's rant, which I'm scrolling through. I'm glad you're offended, mate. Get off the page. Luke Waka, good info. I hope it helped, brother. Nick Paulette, leave the live feed if you don't want to know about the effects on gains, mate. This is tonight's topic, so deal with it. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Nick. I love that common sense prevails. As Nick said, if you guys don't like any of the topics that I'm discussing, just leave, alright? Don't talk about it, because I'm not going to change what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't really care, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to say it. And I like talking about this shit anyway, so I'm definitely not going to change my mind. Kyle, hey man, only just rolled in and missed the first 20 minutes. What are your thoughts on the occasional joint, maybe once or twice a week? I just drink water when I get the munchies. Mate, if you're smoking 1 or 2 joints a week, you're going to be fine, brother. As long as you're getting gains, and when Clint and I and Joel and I review your progress every week, as long as you're improving, I don't care. What I would recommend is that you be very stringent with your theocrine use the next day, because that'll level you out and that'll make sure that your dopamine levels are peaking all the time. And if you start seeing any negative effects, let us know, and we might look at using a little bit of L-Dopa or something like that to bring your dopamine levels up. But you should be sweet, brother. You know, when I chatted with you, you're pretty switched on, so, you know, I don't have any concerns about you smoking a joint or two a week. Scott Hill, hey brother, how are ya? Graffy, will Valium have an effect on gains? Good question, Graffy, good question. A lot of people use Valium. Like a surprisingly large number of people use a lot of Valium. So that's a really good one, man. I should have covered that. Right, let's do Valium. So, Valium. Valium works on the GABA receptor, right? Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this, I harp on the GABA receptor all the time, like constantly going on about this thing. I love it. I'm infatuated with it. What the GABA receptor does is it calms us down. The general function of it is to calm us down. It allows us to rest, it allows us to sleep, it allows our digestive system to move, all that stuff, okay? So it's really, really epic. Now, when you take Valium, it really tightly binds with the GABA receptor and has a massive effect. It relaxes all your muscles, it relaxes your gut, it makes you sleep really well, it knocks you out, all that sort of stuff. So Valium has a really, really positive effect. I have noticed that people with IBS and high levels of stress, sore backs, you know, almost constant pain, all that type of thing, have really positive effects with Valium. Now, the problem with Valium is that because it's so strong, it actually desensitizes the GABA receptor, and so it becomes less effective over time. And the other thing too is if you take it regularly and then you stop taking it, you can give yourself anxiety. So what you need to do, all right, if anybody here is taking Valium, you need to be really cautious of it and how much you're using. Try to underdose as opposed to overdose. Well, obviously don't overdose, but try to take a lower dose rather than a higher dose, okay? So try to minimize it. Take a quarter of a tablet if you can, all right? Half or a quarter of a tablet. Never try to go for a full tablet, okay? And just do it. Use it as an absolute minimum. So if your gut is playing up, bang, pop a Valium before you get well. I shouldn't be recommending this, should I? But what I would do in my instance, if I were to do it, if my gut were playing up, then yes, I might take a quarter of a Valium or something like that, and it might relieve my gut. So guys, just taking that back, I'm not going to recommend that you take Valium. I think it's bad. You should just go see your doctor, all right, if you're going to do it. But what I would do, on the other hand, what I would do is if I were to take Valium, that I'd take about a quarter of a tablet, maybe. Take a really low dose, try and keep it minimal, and use it at minimum times per week, okay? So I hope I didn't put my foot in it then. I may have, and if I have, forgive me, all right? And please don't dob me in. I'd hate that. I'd be really sad. Because I don't think drugs are good. I'm just trying to tell you guys how to be safe. Good question, Graffy. Great question. So yeah, summarize that again outside of my waffle is take the minimum dose you can in order to get the same effect which you desire, all right? Try and keep yourself as you know, as healthy as possible. Billy, hey bro, with alcohol, how many grams of all those subs should you have before bed, and what are they called again? Can you please write them down, legend? I can't write them down, but I'll say them out really slow for you, big fella. Alright? Number 1, take some inositol. I'm probably going to change all the subs I said before, but anyway, number 1, inositol. Number 2, 5-HTP. Number 3, melatonin. Number 4, glucosamine. Number 5, let's chuck in some phytosomal curcumin there as well. Alright, those are 5. There are a shitload of subs. I could go on for days about subs. Like, look at my sub stack, alright? They all do different things. All these things, they all do different stuff. Every single one of them, okay? And each of those will be equally as effective for alcohol, alright? There's a heap out there, man. There's an absolute heap. What you need to do is the main things that you need to work on are making sure that you sleep well, that you look after your gut and you recover your gut really well, and that you function well the next day. Okay, you can use heaps of stuff to make sure that they work. Paul, can HRT manage pain inflammation? Yes, man. HRT and testosterone replacement therapy are fantastic for pain inflammation. I've seen a lot of guys who use that, who take who take the HRT or the TRT, and they get dramatically better within a very short space of time. Now, Paul, one thing I do for a lot of guys like you is I run a course, because often HRT isn't enough. And so in this course, what I do is I cover everything about how to reduce inflammation, how to improve your digestive health, your neurotransmitters, and all that to reduce your pain, to actually make you feel younger so that you're not stiff all the time. You're not stiff, you're not feeling shit, all that sort of stuff. So if you or anybody else here wants to discuss that, if you're over the age of like say 30 and you just want to feel younger again, just shoot me a message or comment below here and we'll help you out. We'll have a chat over the phone about that and what we can do to improve it. But yes, mate, HRT can definitely help pain and inflammation, but you need to manage it properly and you need to manage the body as a whole in order to get optimal results. Now, Tony's just said, so steroids don't affect heart or organs growth, etc. To my knowledge, there's actually no studies on it. To my knowledge, all right? That's not something that I just Google up late at night. But yeah, to my knowledge, and from talking with a heap of guys who are very, very highly intelligent in that area and who are like what we consider industry leaders, there's no real effect on it whatsoever, okay? If you're taking grams of the shit per week, then yeah, of course, it's going to do something bad. If you abuse it and you're an absolute, spud with taking all that stuff, then yes, it's going to have a bad effect. But if you're taking an HRT dose, you're taking TRT, then no, it's not going to have any bad effect at all. Well, there's no evidence of it having a bad effect. And that's all I care about is evidence. All right? So no, mate, if you're smart about it, then you actually shouldn't get any bad effects. Chris Cabot, have I never done drugs? No, I have. I've drank before, and I told everyone about that gummy bear that I took when I had pot, and I'm never touching that shit again because I was just an absolute muppet. So yeah, they're my times. Dylan Porter Jones got popped for T-Bowl most recently. Good on him. Yeah, that's John Jones again, the bloke who got done for steroids and cocaine. Seems like a pretty good bloke, actually. Phenomenal fighter, absolute freak. Now, Jonathan's just said, what's a good testosterone booster off the shelf, or are they worth the money? Just get a girlfriend, mate. That'll boost your testosterone massively until she stresses you out, and then that's when it drops it. On top of that, mate, the best test booster would probably be an Astragalus. Other than that, none of them work. They're all fake. They're all just really, really clever marketing designed to part you with your money and give you nothing for it. All right? That's really what test boosters are designed for. Hey, Will, how are you, big fella? Now, Zane, coming off test, any studies or your opinion on this, gains in health-wise? So if you're taking testosterone, you're taking steroids, man, like, you should, when you're coming off it, a lot of guys are just going to have a bad time, okay? In general, you're just going to have a bad time. It's really largely genetic. Some people can come off taking steroids and have no side effects whatsoever. Some people can come off it and it's literally the end of the world for them. They're going to feel like shit forever, okay? As far as studies on this, I'm actually not aware of them. I don't think they'd actually be able to do many studies on this because it would go against the ethical guidelines and all that stuff. My best advice to you, man, is to not block estrogen like crazy. A lot of guys, when they come off taking testosterone, they resort to blocking estrogen in order to boost up their test. It actually makes you feel like shit. It's very bad for your brain. It's very bad for your bones. It's very bad for your health in general. So I would not recommend that whatsoever. A lot of guys actually send themselves into depression when they're coming off testosterone by taking these estrogen blockers, okay? So be very, very aware of that, mate. On top of that too, just, try and minimize the shit that you're using. If you use less, and you use less all the time, if you use less, you're going to have less of a negative effect, okay? So just be really, really smart, man. Kyle, I'm glad that helped you, big fella. Eli. So many people do drugs but don't really understand the effects they have on their bodies, good and bad. Mate, you're so true. But the reason why that is, why people don't actually know what's happening, is because nobody talks about it ever. And so I want all you guys to know that I'm actually open to talk about this shit with you. I actually love researching it because all drugs work on the brain. And like learning about neurotransmitters was my shit at uni. I love it. I still do it all the time right now. It's the focus on all of my programs. Neurotransmitters, the gut, that's what I love. So if you have any questions around these areas, I think they're absolutely, fantastic. And I love helping you guys out with it too. So guys, if anybody has any questions about this, just fucking ask whenever. It doesn't matter. And I'll go live or we can talk, in private. You can chat with my team. Chris, if I pay you, can you give me a workout routine and food plan, please? Sure can, brother. No, we'll chat, mate. We'll chat. My boy Joel will give you a message after this, and we'll make sure that you're well and truly looked out, my man. Damien Draper, what's your view on clenbuterol use? Look, I get asked this question all the time. Never annoys me because fucking clen's shit. Don't use clen, ever. Do not use clenbuterol, okay? Period. Period. Don't use clenbuterol. Never. Ever. Even if you just want to get leaner and you don't want to diet as hard, don't take clenbuterol, alright? No. Clenbuterol is really, really bad for your heart. It's really, really bad for your gut. It's really, really bad for your neurotransmitters. Don't use it, alright? Period. There are so many alternatives to using clen, like dieting or training, you know, if you want to go down the drug route, right? You know, you're better off taking testosterone or you're better off taking T3, okay? Don't use clenbuterol, okay? Don't use clenbuterol. If everyone can clap with me right now, you ready? On 3, don't use clenbuterol. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Don't use clenbuterol. Don't use it ever. All right? Period. It's not going to help you out. It's going to send you backwards. All right? I have seen more cases of clen actually shifting people backwards and making them lose less fat, losing more muscle, and having poorer digestion than anyone going forwards. Okay? Don't use it. Avoid it. All right? It's not good for you whatsoever. Billy Bass, you're a legend, mate. Happy to help. Hemi, what do you think of SARMs? Are they good or bad? Look, the studies on the SARMs and the research on the SARMs, I think they're quite new. Even though they've been around for like 10 years, it's still regarded as quite new. I'm not the most well versed in SARMs, but from what I've seen on SARMs, they actually have the same side effects for less gains. All right? Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with SARMs, they are, putting on my big scientist hat now, they are select androgen receptor modulators, all right? And what they do is they kind of mimic the effect of testosterone or other drugs, all right? Now, these have been touted as being more safe, you know, having less side effects, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. However, yeah, I've seen a lot of people say a lot different to that, okay? Now, I haven't used SARMs myself, so I can't really talk about them, I guess. But my advice to you would be, mate, if you're going to take SARMs, just get a good doctor and get him to run you through some TRT, all right? That's what I recommend. Don't bother, okay? Paul, mate, I look forward to speaking with you. Just shoot me an inbox and I'll send you a link so we can chat. Tony Versick, awesome, mate. Thank you for the great video, man. Alex is saying, stay natty, Tony. Tony, yes, stay natty. I 100% recommend staying natty. Guys, my view on steroids, right? I don't judge if people take them, right? In fact, if people are taking them, they come to me, I actually want to help them and I want to actually make them, you know, healthier by using it. My big thing is I always try to minimize the dose. I try to get you on as little as possible or get off. I've had an enormous number of people come to me while taking gear and I've actually convinced them to get off it and then they've got better results from being off it, okay? Now, that's a rarity. Now, the average person who's quite healthy will get better results on taking steroids than not. But if you're unhealthy, then there are a few things that can go wrong. And if you're using steroids as like a crutch for shit diet, shit training, shit supplementation, then yeah, you're not going to progress as well as what you would if your diet, your training, your supplementation are all on point. Okay? So yeah, if you take steroids, I'm not going to judge you. I'm here to help you out, so you can ask me as many questions as you like about it. But at the same time, I think that if you can stay natty, then yeah, 100% stay natty and avoid taking drugs because it's just one more thing that you have to worry about. Okay. Nick Paulette, if you take T3 instead of clen, if you're going to forego, yes, exactly. Good. T3 over clen for sure. Damien, okay, I won't use clenbuterol. Mate, I'm glad we've saved someone's heart today. It's fantastic. Happy days. Eric, thanks for the advice on clenbuterol, mate, anytime. Hemi, I'm glad that helped answer your question. All right. Luke Wacker, my mate actually recommended clenbuterol. Well, tell your mate that he's wrong, all right? Tell him from Uncle Shred right here that your mate is wrong. He is not right at all. Do not use clenbuterol. Just don't whatsoever. All right? No point. Clenbuterol has an enormous half-life. It's something between like 12 and 18 hours. All right? It's huge. That means that you're putting your body under stress. You're putting your body in fight or flight for 12 to 18 hours. You should be in fight or flight for like an hour or 2 hours of the day. That's it, all right? Max. You don't want to be in it for 12 to 18 hours. What do you think happens when your sleep goes to shit, right? What do you think happens when your gut goes to shit? What do you think happens when you're constantly anxious and you're stressed out of your nut? You ruin your relationships, you ruin your job, you ruin your ability to concentrate, you ruin your ability to perform in the gym. Mate, they're not good things at all. If clenbuterol lasted for like an hour, then yeah, sure, it'd do a good job. But for 12 to 18 hours, no fucking way, mate. Don't take the shit. Your mate's wrong. Straight up. If he wants to argue about it, I'll get him on live and we'll film it in front of everyone and he and I can go at it and he can say why clenbuterol's good and I'll tell him why he's a muppet. Alright? So yeah, put that to your mate because he's wrong, Luke. Don't use Clen, brother. Don't. Jaden Bateman, does your white blood cell count fluctuate slightly depending on whether you're a bit sick or stressed, etc. at the time? Yeah, 100%, mate. Mm-mm. When you're stressed, when you're stressed or sick, right, you're not feeling great, then your white blood cell comes up because it's got to help heal, it's got to kill all the pathogens, it's got to kill the invaders, all the bad stuff that's there. Okay, so yes, your white blood cell count will fluctuate. You got to send me through all your bloods, by the way, big fella, so I can take a look at them. Dylan Souza, thoughts on a cup of red wine prior to comp day? Big fella, I've actually seen this go both ways. I've seen some people work really well on it, have a nice diuretic effect and get very vascular, and I've had some people have a really bad reaction to it and not do well. My current approach to comp day is don't risk it. You've just dieted your ass off for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks or whatever. Would you really blow it, on comp day by doing something that is a potential risk? Yeah, sure, 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, you might be fine. You might look really good by having a glass of red wine. But excuse me, wouldn't you just rather go into it knowing that you're already looking fucking good and then just have perhaps a better peak day protocol than relying on a glass of red wine the night before? That's my opinion anyway. I would not advise it. However, I know a whole heap of others do it and think it's fantastic. Robbie Nickel, Anavar or Winnie? Robbie, the fact that you're asking that, I would say that for you, brother, you need to just worry about your diet and your training first before doing that. Anavar or stanozolol or Winstrol, whatever you want to call it, alright, they're both going to give you good effects and massive amounts of gains because they're a fucking steroid and they're both really strong things, okay? People downplay Anavar, but that stuff, I've seen guys take it and it's strong as it has massive effects. So I've had a mate gain 6 kilos in an 8-week cycle on that, right? Lean, no side effects, alright? So, mate, both of them are very, very strong. It just really, Winstrol's more, stanozolol's more hepatotoxic, so it does have a bit of a harsher effect on your liver. Whereas Anavar, I've heard people say you could sell it at every 7-Eleven store because it's that safe. So it's really up to you. Okay. Daniel, great question. What are your thoughts on long-term steady use of SUS-250 regarding to hormone replacement? Yeah, man, it's fine. It's fine. It really doesn't matter. The main thing about using SUS as opposed to the other ones is you just got to find which one maintains your blood levels of testosterone at the most constant level. If it's always really, really constant, and it's more constant on SUS, then yeah, 100% do it. It's got the longer esters in there, so which it should be theoretically more stable over the term. But the thing with any TRT and any HRT is that just because you're taking the HRT doesn't mean that you're going to be getting the optimal results. You actually need to do a whole heap of background work in terms of your diet, looking after your brain, looking after your gut, looking after your inflammation levels, modulating your inflammation in order to get the most out of TRT. Okay? So yeah, brother, I'd be really careful about all the other stuff that you're doing too, and look into that. As I was saying to Paul before, I don't know if you heard it, but I actually run a course for blokes like you. So if you actually want to optimize it, you want to feel better, and you want to get rid of all your shitty joint pain, the stuff that the TRT can't fix, let me know, and we'll have a chat over the phone. Right? Kate Hodson, how are you, mate? Good to hear from you as always. When I squat, I can't get great depth. I'm unsure if it's due to my hips or my ankle mobility. Any tips? It's probably going to be both, dude. It's probably going to be, I find the majority of the issues with the squat comes from is from the abdomen, from the midsection. If you're tight through the abdomen, you need to release it, you need to get it loose, okay? So that's your big step. Number one is release that, okay? Because when you release that, it opens up your hips, makes your hips a whole heap more mobile, and it loosens up your back. Number two is, yes, the ankle. So check your ankle mobility. You should be able to press your toes into a wall and then bend your knee far enough forward so that your knee hits it, right? So if you're standing with both feet like this, you should then be able to move forwards and roll forwards and get your knee onto the wall with your heels still on the floor. Now, on top of that too, another good test to see whether it's your ankles which are being bad is if you put your heels underneath, like with a block of a weight underneath them, and you stand on that, and if your symptoms improve and you can squat a whole heap better, then yeah, it's probably going to be due to your ankle. Best recommendation is get somebody to look at it face to face. That's probably the best thing I could recommend for now, man. Alright? Or you can send us in a video. Jackie, you look tired, go to bed. I am tired, man. I've been working my ass off lately, but it's good, it's all worth it. So yeah, every day after these live Q&As, I wake up and I've lost my voice. So, because all I do is talk every day, guys. Like literally every day I'm on the phone chatting with my clients, chatting with my team, doing that sort of thing. So I lose my voice and it screws me. But you're all worth it, alright? And I wouldn't give up these live Q&As or the phone calls for anything because you're all a bunch of legends, okay? Peter, why didn't you eat the brock? Because I fucking hate broccoli. I don't like broccoli at all, alright? Gemma makes the most delicious meals. Gemma from Daily Fuel, the chick who does all my meals. She makes amazing meals, but you can't fix broccoli, mate. You just cannot fix broccoli at all, ever. There's nothing you can do to sugarcoat broccoli. Even literally coating broccoli in sugar could not sugarcoat broccoli. All right, it is. But anyway, guys, look, we've been on this for an hour now. All right, that goes really, really quick. Guys, we had some awesome questions tonight. All right, really, really good questions. And this is Daniel, harden up and eat the brock. All right, whatever. Oh shit, gives me nothing. Alright? We had some really good questions tonight. Now this is a really contentious topic. Not many people like talking about it at all, ever. And you're probably not going to get one of these until I do one next. So if you do have any questions in the time being, okay, what I want you to do is just let us know, alright? My team and I, we all hold the same views, alright, around this shit, and we're just here to help you. We're not here to judge. We don't give a fuck what you do, alright? We only give a fuck if you don't train, alright? That's probably the only time we really don't care and we don't like you, is if you don't lift. And even then, we're not too mad. But yeah, so if you need a hand with anything related to this, let us know and we'll help you out. We're here to help. Daniel, last question before I bail, mate. Would cannabis help with relaxation, sleep, and recovery? Yeah, it can in some people. That's the short answer, alright? Some people it can, some people it makes you worse. If it makes you anxious, then no, it doesn't. If it makes you relax and you feel better the next day, then yes, it does, okay? But anyway, on that note, guys, I'm out. Oh, by the way, I had someone ask me about these singlets before. These are from Do You Even, alright? I can put the link in the bio for you if you want to check them out, alright? So helping you out with that. But anyway, on that note, I'm out. I'm going to bail. Enjoy your night, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon.